Sanjeev Gupta, welcome back. A short visit to Australia. Now, two announcements you're making. Your first is the acquisition of Steelforce. Now, that's a trading business. What does it do to your overall Australian business?
It adds 120,000 tonnes to our business, quite simply put. So, of products we make. So it's a great addition. It gives us a bit more market share, it allows us to, there is some synergies and some reorganisation which will benefit the industry. So.
And what sort of products are we talking about there?
So the main products it does is beams and heavy sections, which we make in Whyalla, and tubes, which we make in the East Coast.
And you've rebranded a lot of your building businesses into something called InfraBuild.
Indeed.
What will that do?
So InfraBuild is our main construction materials business, basically the integrated value chain we have, making steel from recycled scrap into construction steel engineered products which go into construction, mainly into infrastructure and buildings, hence the name InfraBuild.
Sanjeev, there's been a lot of speculation about afloat here in Australia of some of your assets for some time. I'm just wondering if the rebranding exercise is perhaps a prelude to floating off InfraBuild.
So look, I'll say the same thing as I always do. We've committed to both ECM and DCM across the group, and we're analysing and setting each part of the group up on that journey, and hopefully that...
But it would be that sort of business that would be the float, wouldn't it?
There's many businesses in the group which fit the ECM and DCM markets.
Right, now the other thing that you've done is set up your own foundation down in Whyalla with your wife Nicola. Now you were down there last week in Whyalla. What's that about?
So it's something which is very, very dear to my heart. It's from the very beginning. My ambition or my motivation and aspirations I put down to my early training as a child, my early exposure in my father and my grandfather's steel plants, engineering plants. And I wanted to find a way to do the same, not perhaps in the same way, but still to give children early exposure, early motivation by running them through steel plants and different engineering plants and so on. So we set this up in the UK. We followed Prince Charles. He had inspired this organisation called Industrial Cadets, and we are a big sponsor of that. I'm an ambassador of that, which is about taking children from primary and secondary school in and around our steel plants or our engineering plants, and running them through a program through the year, giving them mentors in each plant. Then they have a curriculum program which is
because if they go off to Adelaide or a university elsewhere, you want some of them to come back to Whyalla.
Well, that's the point, right? The basic point is that the reason why this program was set up in the UK, which this is a derivative of, was exactly that. There has been over the last decades a brain drain. Children have not come back into our industry, so this is sort of giving them early motivation and early exposure to inspire them to come back into industry.
You're always on the acquisition trail. Let's stay in Australia for a minute. Now, Whyalla, this metal deposit, you're having a bit of a ding-dong. I think shareholders have to decide on September the 12th.
That is correct. We've made a value proposition. It's an important part of our journey because the ambitions we have for Whyalla and South Australia need good, secure supply of iron ore and copper. So this is sort of that part of the journey. And we've made what we think is a good proposition to the shareholders. And
you've had a bit of resistance from a former founder, haven't you? It
was for the shareholders to work out. But we made what we think is a very good proposition. There are other alternatives, of course, but we'll wait to see what happens.
Sanjeev, internationally, you've made a huge acquisition of some ArcelorMittal assets, which has really transformed the business in the last month. Yes,
it's the biggest step we have taken by a long way in history. We acquired these 7 plants from ArcelorMittal all across Europe, and it's been a very busy time since.
What has that done to the size of your business, buying these ArcelorMittal assets?
On our steel business, it more than doubles it. Overall, the group even, you could say, almost doubles it. So we are well over 30,000 people now across 30 countries. It puts us in one of the pole positions in Europe in terms of the steel activity there and changes which are happening there. Even globally, we're one of the largest steel producers now. It gives us a very nice position in the market to see how we can use that to transform or to transition the steel business, as we are very keen to do from traditional forms to green steel.
Right, and I suppose this is all part of your vision to re-industrialise a lot of the Western world.
I believe steel is going through a transition. I think steel will get decarbonised over time. There are obviously green steel or recycling is one clear and easy way of doing so. Even in primary steel, I think there's a lot of opportunities on using things like hydrogen, and we will definitely play a leading role in that. And hence offer the opportunity for reindustrialization in many parts of the world where you've seen a decline.
Now, hopping to Britain, you've been a long-time supporter of Boris Johnson. I think the first time round he was running for Prime Minister and then he had to pull out. What do you think of Boris Johnson as Prime Minister now?
I think he has a great opportunity to really lead our country. It's been, all the uncertainty of the last 2 years has been very, very damaging in many, many different ways. And now we have a clear opportunity to get out of that uncertain future and carve out a proper, clear pathway ahead. And he has an opportunity, and I have every confidence he will deliver that.
More broadly, are you worried about all these global tensions in trade at the moment, and does it impact your business?
It affects everybody, and we're all concerned about it. We all like to see things settle down. But I also equally do believe that it is the era of regionalization rather than globalization. So I think we'll see more and more regionalization, especially in our industry. And some of this is symptomatic of that. The way it's played out, I would like to see it settle down and not be so noisy. But in terms of promoting local industry, I'm a big fan of that, and I've been so for a long time.
Sanjeev, a question often asked of you, obviously you're such a high growth company at the moment and you're still private ahead of any potential float. And certainly the FT have been on your tail about the acquisition of a bank, your bank, Whyalla. Now, I guess the issue is that it is a challenger bank, it's chasing retail deposits, and the idea that some of these funds are being on-lent to various parts of the GFG alliance. It's all a bit close, perhaps, and not transparent enough.
Well, look, the easiest way I can answer that is that UK banking is probably the most regulated, most controlled, most managed environment anywhere on this planet. It's a small club. We went through a lot of scrutiny before we were allowed in not to one bank but two banks, and everything we do is within the confines and within the rules.
And the FCA has approved.
Absolutely. And the concept is, these banks are aligned to the group. They're only allowed to lend a certain amount to the group, but they never will be able to breach. Even, there are 7 layers of governance. It's impossible even to remotely imagine that the bank can breach its limits. But what is true is that the concept is that they are aligned to the group, the industry we're in, the knowledge we have, the risk mitigation, risk experiences we have, all of these they derive strength from, and hence obviously they'll be aligned to that industry and be in that industry. That is the basis of which the banks are founded. It's not something untoward. It's a very basis, very foundation of the bank, that it will participate in the sector and benefit from the group's experience and group's introductions to businesses which we have a long history of and can point to and say, look, there's a good track record here. That's something which is worthy. But that doesn't mean they're lending money to us. What they can lend to us is very controlled and very limited.
Finally, dare I ask, where is your actual focus? You've got this 100-day plan with your European assets. Where is your focus now?
No, so it's absolutely right. That that is our biggest undertaking so far, and the absolute focus is that 100 days, and we're right in the middle of it now. And literally every day, there's no matter where I am in the world, there's everyday reviews, calls, and constantly we're monitoring the market. Market's very volatile as well. Have you seen iron ore prices being all over the place? So all of these things impact us quite directly. So it's probably the predominant occupation of my time at the moment.
But you're pretty happy with Australia, having been here?
I'm very happy with Australia. I'm very happy with all my businesses globally. Australia is a wonderful place in every respect, for sure.
Sanjeev Gupta, always great to get your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.